Rain hammered against the windshield as I stood outside my own house, my 7-year-old son's hand trembling in mine. Through the kitchen window, I could see my wife Emily laughing with a man I'd never seen before. His shadow moved too comfortably through our space, like he belonged there. On the counter, my coffee mug, the blue one I used every morning, sat filled and waiting. Noah's small voice cut through the storm. "Dad, please don't go home tonight." His words cracked with fear. "I heard Mommy talking to someone. She said she's going to make sure you never wake up." Everything inside me went cold. This wasn't a child's imagination. The terror in his eyes told me he'd heard something real, something that made him brave enough to warn me. I stared through that window at the woman I'd loved for 10 years, watching her smile at this stranger, and felt my entire world shatter. The mug on the counter wasn't just coffee anymore. It was a threat sitting in plain sight, waiting for me to come home and drink it like I did every morning, trusting and oblivious. My name is Mark Dawson. Until tonight, I thought I had everything figured out. A successful software business, a beautiful home in the suburbs, a wife who kissed me goodbye every morning. But when your own child begs you not to go inside your house, something fundamental breaks. I drove away from that window, Noah buckled in the back seat, my hands shaking on the wheel. Every red light gave me time to think, to replay the past few months like a horror movie I'd been too blind to see. The late-night phone calls Emily claimed were work emergencies. The way she'd started watching me drink my morning coffee with an intensity I'd mistaken for affection. The insurance forms she'd asked me to sign last week, brushing off my questions with a kiss. "Just updating our policies, honey. It's boring stuff." I'd signed without reading, trusting her completely. Now that trust felt like poison in my veins. I glanced in the rearview mirror at Noah, his face pressed against the window, tears streaming down his cheeks, and made a silent promise. Whatever Emily had planned, I would stop it. I would protect my son. 1 week ago, I'd woken at 2 in the morning to Emily's voice in the hallway. She was whispering urgently, and I caught my name before the conversation stopped dead. When I stepped into the hall, she was already climbing back into bed, phone dark on the nightstand. "Work call," she'd said, her smile too bright for that hour. "Crisis with the Jakarta account. Go back to sleep." But my gut had twisted with something I couldn't name then. That same night, Noah had crawled into our bed crying. Emily was in the shower, so I held him close. "What's wrong, buddy?" He'd buried his face in my chest. "Mommy said you're going away soon. She said I won't see you anymore." My heart had clenched, but I'd assumed she meant a business trip. "I'll always come back, Noah. I promise." Now those words felt like prophecy. She'd been preparing him for my disappearance, planting the seed so when I was gone, he'd already expect it. The manipulation was so careful, so cold. She'd been grooming my own son to accept my death as inevitable, natural even. The morning after that midnight call, Emily had been unusually affectionate. She'd made my favorite breakfast, poured my coffee with extra care, kissed my cheek with lips that lingered. "You work too hard, Mark. Promise me you'll be careful today." Her eyes had watched me lift that mug to my lips with an intensity I'd mistaken for love. Now I understood she'd been watching for symptoms, waiting for whatever she'd put in there to take effect. When I'd left for work, she'd called out from the doorway, "Drive safe, okay?" The words weren't concern. They were goodbye, spoken like she'd already buried me in her mind. I'd waved back, oblivious, already thinking about my morning meetings. How many times had she tried before that day? How many mornings had I drunk poison she'd carefully measured, building it up slowly so no one would suspect? The thought made my stomach turn. I pulled into a motel parking lot, Noah half asleep in the back, and tried to steady my breathing. My wife was trying to kill me, and I had no idea how long it had been going on. Inside our cheap motel room, Noah finally spoke more. "Mr. Allen comes over when you're at work." His voice was small, scared. "Mommy told me not to tell you. She said it was their special secret." Allen. The name hit me like a punch. Alan Briggs, the divorce lawyer Emily had consulted 5 years ago when her sister was getting divorced. He'd come to our house for dinner once, and I'd thought nothing of it when Emily mentioned seeing him occasionally for coffee. "He's helping me with some legal paperwork for the business," she'd said. More lies stacked on lies. What did they talk about, buddy? Noah's eyes filled with tears. About making you go away forever. About how Mr. Allen's plan would work. Mommy said once you were gone, everything would be better. He started crying. I don't want you to go away, Dad. I told her that, and she got mad. She said I didn't understand grown-up things. But he understood more than they'd realized. Children see everything adults think they hide. Noah had been carrying this terrible secret, trying to protect me while being told to keep quiet by his own mother. I couldn't confront Emily yet. Accusations without proof would only warn her, push her to act faster or cover her tracks. So the next morning, I took Noah to school and stopped at an electronics store. The clerk helped me find a tiny camera, barely visible, that could hide in a bookshelf. That afternoon, while Emily was at her yoga class, or wherever she really went, I installed it in the living room, angled perfectly toward the kitchen. My hands shook as I tested the feed on my phone. Clear footage, clear audio. That night, I pretended everything was normal. Kissed Emily goodnight, told her I loved her, feeling the words rot in my mouth. She smiled back, that same too perfect smile. I love you too, Mark. Sweet dreams. The irony of those words made my skin crawl. After she fell asleep, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd ever really known her. At 3 a.m, I checked the camera feed from the bathroom. Emily was awake, standing in our kitchen, pouring something from a small glass vial into my coffee mug, which sat ready for morning. My heart stopped. It was real. All of it. The footage showed everything. Emily carefully measured drops from that vial, her movements practiced and confident. Then Alan walked in through our back door like he owned the place, no hesitation, no knocking. They kissed, long and deep, his hands in her hair. My wife. My home. My supposed sanctuary. Then they sat at our kitchen table, and I turned up the volume on my phone. How much longer? Alan asked. Emily's voice was cold, calculating, nothing like the warm tone she used with me. 2 more weeks of this dose, and it'll look like heart failure. The doctors won't suspect anything. His father died of a heart attack at 45, so it's believable. My blood ran cold. She'd been poisoning me for weeks, maybe months. Every headache I'd blamed on stress, every moment of dizziness I'd ignored, those weren't random. They were symptoms of whatever she was slowly killing me with. And the business? Alan continued. I've been signing his name on the transfer documents. Once he's gone, everything moves to me as the widow. You'll get your cut like we agreed, 40%. So this was about money. My company, the software firm I'd built from nothing over 12 years, was worth millions now. I spent the next day pretending nothing had changed. Smiled at Emily over breakfast, kissed her goodbye, avoided the coffee she'd prepared with such care. At work, I poured it down the bathroom sink, my hands shaking with rage and fear. But I couldn't let emotion rule this. I needed strategy, patience, evidence that would stand up in court. That night, Emily suggested we have dinner together, just the 2 of us. Noah can stay at my mom's, she said sweetly. We need to reconnect, Mark. I feel like we've been distant lately. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so terrifying. She was killing me slowly while complaining we weren't close enough. That sounds perfect, I told her, forcing warmth into my voice. How about Friday? She beamed, genuinely pleased. Friday is perfect. 3 days. I had 3 days to build my case. I called an old college friend, Tyler, who worked in the prosecutor's office. Without revealing too much, I asked him about evidence requirements for attempted murder. His answer was clear: I needed irrefutable proof, preferably with witnesses or recordings. The camera footage was a start, but I needed more to make charges stick. That evening, an unknown number texted my phone. Don't trust her. She's planning something bigger. You need to protect Noah. I stared at the message, heart pounding. Who else knew? I called the number back immediately. A woman answered, voice shaking. Mark. It's Claire. Emily's sister. We'd barely spoken in years after some family drama I'd never fully understood. What do you know? I demanded. She took a shaky breath. I overheard Emily and Alan at my house last week. Mark, she's not who you think. She's been planning this for over a year. Ever since your company got that government contract and became worth real money. My mind reeled. A year of planning to murder me. A year of lying next to me every night, kissing me every morning, all while plotting my death. She told me you were having an affair, Claire continued. That she needed to protect herself financially before you left her. But last week, I heard her laughing about it with Alan. There's no affair, is there? No, I said quietly. Just her lies. Claire started crying. I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. I was scared she'd turn the family against me, and I didn't have proof. Friday arrived. Emily spent all day preparing for our dinner, humming as she cooked my favorite meal, herb-crusted salmon with roasted vegetables. I watched her move through our kitchen, wondering how someone could plan murder so cheerfully. When Noah came to hug me goodbye before leaving for Emily's mother's house, he whispered against my shoulder, "Be careful, Dad. Please be careful." I squeezed him tight. Always, buddy. I promise. That evening, I arrived home early as Emily had requested. Candles lit the dining room, soft jazz played from the speaker, and she appeared in a red dress I'd bought her for our anniversary last year. You look beautiful, I said, and I meant it despite everything. Beautiful and deadly, like poison in a crystal glass. She poured wine, her smile absolutely perfect. To us, she toasted, raising her glass. To 10 wonderful years and many more to come. I raised my glass but didn't drink, just touched it to my lips. Bathroom, I excused myself after a moment, slipping into the hallway where Tyler waited with 2 police officers, all listening through the wire I wore taped to my chest. Emily's voice came through clearly as she called Alan, thinking I couldn't hear. He's drinking it now. Give it 30 minutes, and we'll call the ambulance. Make sure you're ready. I stood in the doorway, phone in hand, camera recording. You mean this drink? I poured the wine down the sink, watching her face carefully. Emily's expression went white, then red, then some color I'd never seen on a human face before. Mark, what are you? Stop. My voice was steady, cold, nothing like the loving husband tone I'd used for 10 years. I know everything, Emily. The poison. Alan. The insurance policy. The forged signatures. All of it. She stumbled backward, words tumbling out in a panicked rush. You don't understand. I had to. You were going to leave me. I never said that. I never even thought it. But you would have. Once you found out about the debt. What debt? Her expression cracked further, revealing something desperate underneath. I made some investments. Bad ones. I owe people, Mark. Dangerous people. Alan said this was the only way to get enough money fast enough. So there it was. She'd gambled with money we didn't have, lost it all, and decided murdering me was easier than honesty, easier than asking for help. You could have told me, I said quietly. We could have figured it out together. I would have helped you. No, she screamed, mascara running down her face. You would have divorced me. Taken everything. Left me with nothing. The officers entered then, badges displayed, and Emily's mask shattered completely. She lunged toward me, screaming, but they caught her arms. You're ruining everything. Mark, please. Tell them it wasn't my idea. Tell them Alan manipulated me. Alan was arrested within the hour, pulled from his office in handcuffs while his colleagues and clients watched in shock. Emily's arrest made the local news that night, prominent businessman's wife arrested for attempted murder. I sat in Tyler's office, giving my statement while Noah stayed with Claire, protected from the media circus already beginning outside my house. The poison, they told me, was a cardiac glycoside derived from foxglove plants, something that mimicked heart attack symptoms perfectly. In small doses over time, it was nearly undetectable unless someone specifically tested for it. She almost succeeded, the detective said grimly. Another week or 2, and we might not have been able to prove anything. Your death would have looked completely natural. I'd been dying slowly for months, maybe longer. Every morning, trusting her completely, drinking my coffee while she watched and waited for my heart to finally give out. That night, I picked up Noah from Claire's house. He ran into my arms, crying. Is she gone? Is Mommy really gone? Yes, buddy. You're safe now. We're both safe. Emily claimed Alan manipulated her, that she was a victim too, coerced by a cunning man who preyed on her desperation. Her lawyer painted her as a frightened woman with gambling debts who'd been controlled by her lover. For a brief moment during her bail hearing, watching her cry on the stand in an orange jumpsuit, I almost felt something. Pity, maybe, or the ghost of love I'd once felt for the woman I thought she was. But then I remembered Noah's terrified voice in the rain, begging me not to go home. I remembered the practiced way she'd measured that poison, the cold calculation in her voice as she discussed my death like a business transaction. The prosecutor presented the insurance policy, updated just 3 weeks ago, with Emily as the sole beneficiary. $2 million. My life, reduced to a payout that would clear her debts and fund her new life with Alan. The judge denied bail. The defendant poses a clear and present danger to the victim and had both means and opportunity to carry out additional attempts. Bail is denied. Emily screamed as they led her away, her composure finally breaking completely. Mark, please. Tell them the truth. Tell them it wasn't my idea. Mark. I sat silent, watching her unravel. Tyler squeezed my shoulder. You okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. The trial came faster than I expected. Emily's lawyer tried every angle, temporary insanity, coercion, financial desperation, but the evidence was overwhelming. The camera footage played in court, showing her pouring poison with steady hands, kissing Alan with genuine passion, discussing the timeline of my death without hesitation or remorse. When Noah took the stand, his small voice echoing through the silent courtroom, even the hardest faces softened. My lawyer had tried to spare him this, but his testimony was crucial. I heard Mommy say Daddy wouldn't wake up, he testified, hands shaking as he gripped the witness stand. She said Mr. Allen would help her make sure. She said we'd be better off without him. Emily sobbed in her seat, head in her hands, but the jury's faces remained stone. They saw what I'd seen, calculation, not remorse. Planning, not passion. The toxicology reports showed exactly what poison she'd used, matched to a bottle found hidden in her closet during the search warrant. Alan's testimony, given after he cut a deal to reduce his sentence, confirmed every detail. He'd planned it. She'd executed it. Together, they'd nearly committed the perfect murder. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts, attempted murder, conspiracy, fraud, forgery. Emily's wail echoed through the courtroom as the verdict was read, raw and animal-like. Outside the courthouse, Emily's parents confronted me on the steps, cameras flashing around us. Her mother's face was twisted with rage and grief. You destroyed her life. She made a mistake, and you're crucifying her for it. You've taken everything from my daughter. A mistake. As if murder was comparable to forgetting an anniversary or bouncing a check. She tried to kill me, I said quietly, acutely aware of the reporters recording every word. For money. 4 months. You drove her to it, her father shouted, stepping closer until Tyler moved between us. Always working, never home. What did you expect? You neglected her. I'd expected loyalty. Trust. Basic human decency. At minimum, I'd expected that if she wanted out of our marriage, she'd ask for a divorce instead of putting poison in my coffee. But explaining that to people who'd raised Emily seemed pointless. They saw only their daughter's tears, not their son-in-law's near death. They'd convinced themselves that somehow, this was my fault. I hope you're satisfied, Emily's mother spat, tears running down her face. You've taken everything from her. Her freedom, her son, her future. No, I thought. She took everything from herself when she chose poison over honesty, murder over divorce, greed over love. I walked away without responding. Some people would never understand, and I'd stopped needing them to. The camera footage leaked online within days. I never found out who released it, maybe someone from the prosecutor's office, maybe a court employee, but suddenly millions of people were watching Emily pour poison, watching her kiss Alan, hearing her plan my death in cold detail. My company's phones rang constantly with reporters wanting comments and interviews. Colleagues who'd worked with me for years stopped me in hallways, eyes wide with disbelief and horror. "We had no idea," they said repeatedly, like a chorus. "She seemed so normal. So loving. How could they have known?" I'd barely known myself until Noah's warning. Emily had been that good at hiding her true self, at wearing the mask of a devoted wife while plotting behind it. Social media exploded with opinions and hot takes. Some defended Emily, calling her desperate and manipulated, a victim of circumstance and a predatory man. Others called for maximum sentencing, sharing true crime analyses of her behavior. I stayed silent publicly, declining all interview requests, focusing on Noah and rebuilding what remained of our life. But privately, I watched Emily's world collapse in real time. Her friends disappeared, blocking her number and unfriending her online. Her social media accounts vanished after the harassment became unbearable. The woman who'd controlled every detail of her image, who'd curated a perfect life online, now became the face of betrayal on true crime podcasts and YouTube discussion forums. Tyler called it justice. I called it exposure, the truth finally seeing daylight. Allen's law firm released a statement within 24 hours. "We are shocked and appalled by these revelations. Mr. Briggs has been terminated immediately, and we are cooperating fully with authorities. His actions do not reflect our firm's values." His career, built over 20 years of hard work, destroyed in days. Emily's bank accounts were frozen, assets seized pending civil suits from the multiple creditors she owed. She'd squandered hundreds of thousands on bad investments, I learned during discovery, cryptocurrency schemes that promised impossible returns, failing startups that existed only on paper, online gambling that had spiraled into addiction. None of which she'd mentioned to me while we discussed our budget and planned Noah's college fund. The dangerous people she'd mentioned weren't criminals or loan sharks. They were banks, credit card companies, legal threats she'd hidden from me for years rather than admit failure. Pride and debt had led to murder. She moved back to her parents' house after posting bail on the reduced charges for her next hearing, sleeping in her childhood bedroom. I heard from Claire that Emily barely spoke anymore, just sitting at the window staring at nothing, the weight of her choices finally crushing her. Part of me felt satisfaction. Another part, the part that had loved her once, felt only sadness at the waste of it all. Emily fought for custody of Noah, her lawyer arguing that despite her crimes, she deserved visitation rights as his mother. The courtroom filled again, this time for family court, different judge but same desperate atmosphere. I sat with my attorney while Emily's lawyer presented her case. She was his mother, she loved him, she'd made terrible mistakes but deserved a chance to rebuild their relationship. Then they played Noah's testimony again. His small voice describing his fear, his nightmares about losing me, his belief that his mother had wanted his father dead. The judge listened carefully, occasionally glancing at Noah sitting beside me, holding my hand tight. When Emily took the stand, her lawyer asked, "Do you love your son?" "More than anything," she sobbed, reaching toward Noah. "Noah is my world. I never wanted to hurt him. Everything I did was to provide for him." "Then why," the judge interrupted, voice sharp, "did you plan to murder his father, knowing he'd be left without one parent and watching the other go to prison?" Emily had no answer. The judge's verdict came swiftly. Full custody awarded to Mr. Dawson. Visitation denied pending psychiatric evaluation and completion of a parenting rehabilitation program, neither of which shall commence until after release from incarceration. Emily screamed, lunging toward me across the courtroom. "You can't take my son. He's mine. Mark, please. Don't do this." Guards restrained her as she screamed and fought, that courtroom outburst becoming the final image of Emily most people remembered. Not the composed woman who'd smiled through poison, not the crying defendant who'd claimed victimhood, but the screaming, desperate creature dragged away by guards while her son watched in horrified silence. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. This woman I'd built a life with, who'd given birth to our son, who'd once been my best friend, she'd become completely unrecognizable. At home that night, Noah asked the question I'd been dreading since the moment she was arrested. Did Mommy ever really love us? Or was it all pretend? How do you answer that? Do you destroy what little good memory remains, or do you lie to protect a child's heart from the full truth of betrayal? "I think she loved us the best way she knew how," I said carefully, choosing each word like picking through broken glass. "But sometimes people get lost. They make terrible choices, and they hurt the people they love because they're too scared or proud to ask for help. Do you still love her? I thought about that. Did I? I love who I thought she was, I admitted. But that person might not have ever been real. Or maybe she was real once, and something changed her. He nodded, processing with the resilience of children. I miss her sometimes. The before mommy. The one who read me stories. Weeks passed into months. Emily's final sentencing hearing arrived, 12 years, with possibility of parole in 8 for good behavior. Alan received 10 years for conspiracy and fraud. I didn't attend either hearing, choosing instead to take Noah to the park where we'd spent so many happy Sundays before everything fell apart. He played on the swings, laughing freely for the first time in forever, and I pushed him higher and higher toward the cloudless sky. Watching him, I realized the real damage Emily had done. Not to me, I would heal, scars and all, but to Noah's ability to trust, to feel safe, to believe in family without wondering when it would betray him. That would take years to rebuild, maybe a lifetime. My business thrived again, freed from Emily's hidden financial drain and the stress of her schemes. I hired new staff carefully, people rebuilding their own lives after betrayal and hardship. Single parents who understood the value of second chances and stability. People who'd survived their own versions of poison and emerged determined to build something better. My company became known not just for innovative software, but for giving opportunities to those who needed them most. It was a quiet form of revenge, succeeding through integrity while Emily sat in prison contemplating her choices. Success built on honesty, not poison. Truth instead of lies. The letter arrived on a Tuesday, Emily's handwriting instantly recognizable despite the prison return address. I almost threw it away unopened, hand hovering over the trash can. But curiosity, or maybe the ghost of closure, made me read it. Mark, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't deserve it, and I'm not asking for it. But I need you to understand, I never meant for it to go this far. I was drowning in debt, terrified, and Alan convinced me this was the only way out. I thought I'd lose everything without him. I see now I lost everything anyway, but worse, I took you and Noah down with me. I'm so sorry. I'm getting real help now. Therapy, addiction counseling, everything I should have done years ago. I understand if you never want to see me again. But please, someday when he's old enough to understand, let Noah know I loved him. That I was just broken, not evil. That his mother wasn't always this monster. I read it twice, then filed it away in a drawer. Sorry didn't erase the poison she'd fed me for months. Sorry didn't undo Noah's nightmares or the fear in his voice when he begged me not to go home. Some words were too small for the damage they tried to cover, like using a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Claire visited on a Sunday afternoon, bringing homemade cookies she'd baked. Emily asked if you'd ever forgive her, she said carefully, watching Noah play in the backyard through the window. I told her I'd ask, but I didn't promise anything. We sat on my porch in comfortable silence for a moment. She's actually trying now, Claire continued. In prison, I mean. She's in therapy, taking classes, working through everything. I think hitting rock bottom finally broke through whatever was stopping her from getting help before. I watched Noah chase a butterfly through the grass, his laughter pure and unselfconscious. Forgiveness doesn't mean reunion, I said finally. I can forgive her for my own peace, so I'm not carrying around anger forever. But that doesn't mean I trust her, or want her in our lives, or think she deserves a relationship with Noah after what she did. Claire nodded, understanding in her eyes. I get it. I do. She's my sister. I had to ask. I know. We sat quietly, watching Noah play. Some relationships couldn't be salvaged, no matter how much history they held. Emily would have to rebuild her life without us, and we would do the same without her. Parallel paths that would never cross again. Thank you, I added, for warning me when you did. You saved my life too. Claire's eyes filled with tears. I should have acted sooner. I should have believed what I was hearing. Emily's case was featured on a crime documentary series about domestic betrayal, financial desperation, and the devastating choices people make when pride prevents them from asking for help. I declined to participate, but many others didn't. Alan's former colleagues, the detectives who'd worked the case, even a forensic psychologist analyzing Emily's behavior from the trial transcripts and evidence. The episode called her a cautionary tale about debt, secrecy, and the slippery slope from poor choices to unthinkable crimes. Meanwhile, my life moved steadily forward. I started speaking at events for domestic violence survivors and people recovering from family betrayal. Though my story was unusual, most victims didn't see the threat coming from quite this direction. I shared Noah's bravery, how a child's courage and awareness had saved his father's life when adults had missed the signs. Parents came up afterward, crying, saying they'd teach their children to speak up like Noah had, to trust their instincts even when told to keep adult secrets. My business continued growing, my reputation expanding beyond software development to include someone who'd survived and thrived despite unimaginable betrayal. That was the best revenge, living well, loudly, successfully. Emily had tried to erase me, to reduce me to a death certificate and insurance payout. Instead, I became more visible than ever, proof that victims could become survivors and then victors. Noah gave me a card on Father's Day, handmade with crayon drawings of us together, stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. "You're my hero, Dad," he'd written inside in careful second-grade handwriting. "Thank you for being brave." I held that card and cried, something I'd been too numb to do throughout the entire trial and aftermath. He'd saved me, warned me, shown courage beyond his years, but somehow I was his hero. The innocence and love in that perspective broke something open inside me that I'd been holding closed. The real victory wasn't the guilty verdict or the custody ruling or the successful business. It was this: Noah still believed in love, in safety, in heroes. Emily hadn't destroyed that core part of him. Yes, he'd need therapy for years. Yes, he'd carry scars into adulthood. But he was still whole, still capable of trust and joy and hope for the future. That night, I tucked him into bed and promised what I'd promised before, but with new weight behind the words. "I'll always come back to you, Noah. Always." "I know, Dad," he whispered, already half asleep. "Because you keep your promises. You're not like her." Unlike his mother, who'd promised to love and cherish, then poured poison instead. But I didn't say that part. Some lessons he'd learn on his own, in time, and some wounds he'd process with therapists who knew better than I did how to help him heal. Years later, I saw Emily at a park across town. Noah was 11 now, playing soccer with friends from school, his laughter carrying across the field. She was sitting alone on a bench, released early on parole, thinner, grayer, smaller somehow. Our eyes met briefly across the distance. She raised her hand in a tentative wave, hope and shame and regret mixing in her expression. I nodded once, acknowledging her existence but nothing more, then turned back to watch Noah score a goal. His team cheered, and he looked for me in the crowd, his face lighting up when our eyes met. We walked to the car together afterward, his hand in mine, his voice bubbling with stories about school and friends and dreams for the future. Emily became a figure in the distance, fading behind us as we drove away. My revenge had never been about destroying her, the courts and consequences had handled that. My revenge was this: rebuilding a life she'd tried to steal. Raising a son who knew both danger and safety, who understood betrayal but still believed in love and trust. Creating success and meaning from the ashes of her greed. If this story resonated with you, if you know someone who needs to hear it, share it, leave a comment telling me your thoughts. Hit that like button and subscribe because stories like this need to be told. Noah once said, "Don't go home tonight." He was right. Because that night in the rain, standing outside that window watching poison wait for me, I finally found out where home truly was, not in a house or with a person, but in the safety and love we built together, brick by brick, day by day. Emily couldn't poison that. No one could. That was the real victory, the one that mattered most. And every morning when I poured my own coffee now, I smiled, grateful to be alive to drink it.